The Appalachian Mountains, spanning from southern New York to northern Mississippi. This region is made up of 423 counties across 13 states and spans 206,000 square miles. The mountain range served as a natural barrier to the westward expansion of the British colonies. The name for the range comes from the tribe of Native Americans named Appalachian, who lived in central Florida about 400 miles south of the Appalachian Mountains. The Spanish explorer and his crew found and most likely conquered the tribe. They started naming things near them Appalachian, including a small part of the mountain range. Eventually, as time passes on and people move around, everyone started calling the whole range the Appalachian Mountains. These mountains are one of the oldest mountains on the planet, predating the whole continent of North America itself. So of course, there are some scary and unexplainable legends attached to this huge rock formation. Today, I will be explaining 4 urban legends from the Appalachian region. First, let's begin with one of the famous cryptids from West Virginia, the Flatwoods Monster. On September 12, 1952, in Flatwoods, West Virginia, the May brothers, Ed, 13 at the time, and Freddie, who was 12, were playing in front of their elementary school with 2 of their friends. Suddenly, a pulsing light streaked across the sky and crashed into a nearby farm. On their way to the farm, the boys stopped at their house and grabbed their mother. Mrs. May then called for the local National Guard member, who was a 17-year-old boy named Gene Lemon. Together, Mrs. May, Lemon, the group of boys, and their family dog went to investigate the strange light. When they reached the crash site, they were greeted with the sight of a 10-foot-tall, Frankenstein-like monster. The creature had a green face and glowing red eyes. Its head was shaped like a spade, and it appeared to be wearing a dark metal dress. Its hands were twisted and clawed, and it was levitating off the ground. When the group approached, the creature hissed at them. On that note, the group turned and ran away as fast as they could. Some members of the group suffered throat irritation, vomiting, and nausea for several days after that. Fun fact, these are the telltale signs of mustard gas. The local authorities claimed to find nothing when they searched and brushed it off. Even the U.S. Air Force doubted the legend and said it was most likely just an owl. There were many other sightings of the Flatwoods Monster after this. About 5 miles north of Flatwoods, in a town named Heaters, Miss Audrey Harper and her friend saw the monster when they were walking to a nearby store. At first, they only saw a ball of fire on one of the hills they were passing. Harper just assumed that one of her neighbors was fox chasing. Side note, I really don't know what this term means. I tried looking it up, but the only thing that I got results for was fox hunting, and as far as I know, fox hunting doesn't involve fire. So if someone could explain that for me in the comments, please, that would be great. Thanks. All right, back to the story. When Harper glanced back, the fire was gone, and in its place was a tall, dark silhouette of a man-shaped figure. Harper and her friend then ran away. One night, George and Edith Snitotsky and their 18-month-old were driving through the rural area between Clay and Broxton County on Route 4 when their car died. George couldn't get the car to restart. Since it was late at night, the road was deserted. Suddenly, a foul phosphorus smell filled the air, and their son began to cry. A strange light appeared, and the couple witnessed the 10-foot-tall creature hovering in front of their car. This time, the monster wasn't wearing the spade-shaped hood. Instead, its head was reptilian and bony. The monster dragged its lizard-like hand across the hood of the car before it drifted into the woods. The car then restarted, and the couple sped off. In 1955, George would tell this story to Mail magazine. These sightings and stories spread like wildfire at the time due to the Cold War. This story took place 3 years after the Soviet Union successfully tested an atomic bomb in 1949. So people were already afraid of things falling from the sky, and this story made everyone even more anxious. It also didn't help that there were many young soldiers who lived near Flatwoods who were killed by communists in Korea just months before that monster supposedly landed. There's also a phenomenon called cosmic loneliness that could be at play here. Clay Routledge, a behavioral psychologist who studied brain science, UFO beliefs, and culture, says there's a hope that we are not just insignificant organisms walking around aimlessly on a rock floating in space. There's hope that we are part of something bigger. Even with all these sightings, most people in Flatwoods don't actually believe in the monster. One account from History.com says, "I don't believe in the Easter Bunny," says Gibson, an insurance agent still working at 81. "I don't believe in Santa, and I don't believe in the Flatwoods Monster, but I do want to boost our community." Even though they don't believe in the monster, the creature still has brought a lot of tourism to their small town, so they make a big deal out of the tale. What do you think? Is there really a spade-headed monster in Flatwoods? Or do you also believe it was just an owl? Our next legend has a few nicknames. In Missouri, they call it Gallywampus. In Arkansas, it's Whistling Wampus. But for the majority of the Appalachian region, it's the Wampus Cat. This cryptid is a half-dog, half-cat creature that can run erect or on all fours. It's usually seen just after dark or right before dawn throughout the Appalachians. As far as the story goes, there are 3 well-known versions. According to non-Native American cultures, the Wampus Cat is an evil creature with yellow eyes and 6 legs that can drive people to insanity. The first non-Native American story goes like this. The Wampus Cat is Yuwa, a beautiful Cherokee woman who didn't trust her husband. When her husband would go hunting with the other men in the tribe, Yuwa would get suspicious about what he was actually doing. So she decided to spy on the men with a mountain lion hide on her so she could stay out of view. She ended up hearing them tell the sacred stories and watch them perform magic. In the tribe, only the men are allowed to hear the sacred stories and do magic. So when the local medicine man found out what she had done, he turned her into the Wampus Cat as punishment. The second story begins, a Cherokee woman was curious about what happened when the men went hunting. Since women in the tribe weren't allowed to go, she covered herself with a mountain lion hide and hid behind rocks and trees as she followed the men into the woods. She learned how the men hunted and prepared meat. She also learned the sacred stories and how to perform magic. Unfortunately, she slipped on the rock she was hiding behind and made a noise that alerted the men. They took her back home, and the medicine man punished her. He bound her with the mountain lion's hide, turning her into the Wampus Cat. Alright, the Cherokee tale is a lot more detailed, a lot longer, and I think a lot better. So here we go. The Cherokee tale goes like this. An evil demon called Yuwa, the spirit of madness, was terrorizing the village of Itawa, or Chowton, depending on the story you're listening to. This is in present-day North Carolina. The demon was feasting on the dreams of the Cherokee children. To figure out what to do, the shamans and the war chiefs had a meeting. In this meeting, the war chiefs wanted to send all of their warriors to defeat the demon. However, the shamans weren't really keen on that idea, since the spirit could drive a man mad with one glance. So to compromise, they decided on sending one of their bravest and strongest warriors, Standing Bear, or Great Fellow, again depending on the version of the story you're hearing. Standing Bear was blessed and given many weapons for his mission. His wife, Running Deer, bid him a final farewell, knowing that she would never see her husband the same way again. After several weeks went by, Standing Bear came back to the village in the middle of the night. He came running back to camp, screaming and clawing his eyes out. Eventually, he would be able to pick up berries and work in the fields with the young girls and unmarried widows. But he would never make a good husband again, which, by Cherokee law, meant he was basically dead. Running Deer loved her husband very much and wanted revenge. The shamans gave her a booger mask, a bobcat's face, and told her that the spirit of the mountain cat could stand against the Yuwa. But she had to be the one to surprise the demon. If the demon surprised her, she could be driven to madness. The war chiefs gave her a special black paste to rub on her body to hide her scent and her body from the demon. She kissed the forehead of her former husband and left to seek revenge. She survived in the woods on sweet berries for several days. Then, one night, she heard something stalking by the stream. As she crept towards the water, she could hear a twig snap behind her. It turned out only to be a small fox, but she realized how quickly that could have been the end of her. If that had been the demon, she would have been insane in an instant. She continued to the creek and saw footprints that didn't belong there, along with her former husband's breastplate. She followed the prints to the demon. The demon was drinking from the spring and had not seen or heard her. She crept closer and pounced on the creature. When you all saw the mask, it began to tear at itself, as the spirit of the mountain cat turned its powerful magic back on itself. The creature fell backwards into the pool, allowing Running Deer to run back to the village. There, the shamans and the war chiefs declared her the spirit talker and home protector. Some say that the spirit of Running Deer still inhabits the Wampus Cat, and that she continues to watch over her tribe's lands and protect them and her people from the demons that hide in the woods. Other than a few reports, there is no tangible proof that this creature exists. Before we move on to our last two legends, be sure to like and subscribe for more strange and unusual content. Now, time for the legends. Our third legend is the Brown Mountain Lights. These lights, or orbs, appear in the sky above the Brown Mountain in North Carolina. For a century, these lights have appeared above the mountain and then subtly disappear or soundlessly explode. Bluegrass songs claim that the lights are the ghost of a slave searching for his lost master. X-Files thinks that the lights are caused by UFOs, and Native American folklore says that the lights are actually ghosts of women looking for fallen warriors from the bloody battle between the Cherokee and Catawba tribes. And the truth is, we still don't know what they are. The first sighting of these lights was reported in 1913 by a fisherman. According to BlueRidgeOutdoors.com, he claimed to see odd red lights dancing above the horizon. The sightings continued after that. In 1922, the U.S. Geological Society investigated the lights and determined that they were just headlights of cars or passing trains. However, a flood recorded in 1916 debunked that theory. The roads and bridges were washed out, and the power was out for weeks during the flood, and yet the lights were still seen by many. On BlueRidgeOutdoors.com, they say that in July 2016, the Charlotte Observer reported that Forest Service officers had reported close-up encounters on the mountain with beach ball-sized orbs that floated by and then vanished. And that in August 2016, local TV station WLOS reported that scientists from Appalachian State University believed to have captured images of the Brown Mountain Lights on 2 digital video cameras. And yet, still no one can exactly explain what these orbs are. Though there is one scientific theory that is very close to an explanation. Ball lightning is a rare and little-known kind of lightning having the form of a moving globe of light, typically the size of a grapefruit, which persists for periods of up to a minute. An article on EarthSky.com says that a previously proposed hypothesis by Torgen had suggested that the weird orbs are simply light trapped inside of a sphere of thin air. Torgen's new paper expands on this idea and how these things might exist. To simplify what the article explains, basically lightning hits the ground just right so that it reflects itself off of a thin layer of air. That thin layer of air is kind of like the film of a soap bubble, so the air kind of surrounds the lightning, and the lightning keeps reflecting off of it, which makes it appear like a glowing orb of light. Then at some point, just like a soap bubble, the air pops and the light vanishes. This isn't a complete answer since it doesn't quite explain some other cases where these glowing orbs have appeared, but it's a start. If you would like to see these lights for yourself, the best time to go is between September and early November. They can be seen on the Blue Ridge Parkway at the Brown Mountain Light Overlook located at the milepost 310, or at the Green Mountain Overlook at milepost 301. Our final legend today is the MoonEyed People. Throughout Georgia and up to North Carolina, there are hundreds of unusual stone structures. Archaeologists aren't quite sure where these things have come from, but if you ask the Cherokee people, these structures are from the tribe of the MoonEyed People. These people are small, pale, light-haired, bearded, and blue-eyed. They cannot see very well in the sunlight, so they only come out at night, hence the name, the MoonEyed People. They lived in a fort in the Appalachian Mountains way before the Cherokee tribe moved in. At some point, the Cherokee and the MoonEyed People went to war. The Cherokee attacked the Pale People during the full moon, since the light reflecting off the moon would have the same effect on the smaller tribe as the sunlight did. This gave the Cherokee a huge advantage. The Cherokee may or may not have used this fort after killing the MoonEyed People, and then at some time, either during the war or after, there was an earthquake that hit and destroyed the fort. There are 3 other possibilities as to whom these MoonEyed People are. The first one is the offspring of the Welsh prince Madoc. Madoc is the son of Owain Gwynedd, king of Gwynedd in North Wales. He fled a fight over the succession after Owain died in 1170. He went to America 300 years before Columbus, and as he was there, he wandered the continent, building and breeding wherever he went. As a result, he left behind a lost tribe of Welsh Indians, or White Indians. At some point, he arrived in Georgia and built a fort to protect himself from the angry tribes around him. The National Library of Wales claims that the Cherokee called the Welsh miners the MoonEyed People because they could see in the dark and lived underground. The second possibility is that the tribe is one of the lost tribes of Israel that is explained in the Book of Mormon. Last but not least, is that these people are either reptilians, aliens, or vampires. The Cherokee County Historical Museum in Murphy, North Carolina, has an effigy, a small statue or figure, of the MoonEyed People. The figure is a 3-foot-tall carved block of soapstone of 2 creatures who are attached together like Siamese twins. They have dished-in faces, no arms, and round eyes. It was found when clearing land in Murphy in the early 1840s. Then it went on public display in 2015. Some people theorize that these actually aren't the depiction of the MoonEyed People, but actually many other things, including just some river locals, just a man and a woman, the descendants of the Welsh adventurers who landed in Alabama in 1170 AD, or the little people whose fallen tears turned into cross-shaped stones, which are also on display in the museum. So what do you think they are? Those are just a few legends from the Appalachian Mountains. These old rocks have many stories to tell. If you know any more interesting legends from this mountain range, or just in general, be sure to comment below and I'll be happy to look into them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.